Okay, so hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book study. We're just two sober alcoholics reading, studying, and discussing the big book the way Joe and Charlie did back in the day. Let's start with a moment of silence, followed by the set-aside prayer. Okay, Regina.
Regina, alcoholic, God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps, this book, the meetings, my disease, and you, God, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth.
Great. Thank you, Regina. So now we all have an open mind, clean slate. We don't know anything about the big book or the third or fourth step, and we're going to let God teach us something new together. This is great. Okay, so just a little background on the the genesis for this podcast is that in 1973, Joe McHugh introduced Charlie P. as the AA speaker at an Al-Anon convention. And so Joe and Charlie, they soon discovered that they both shared a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And traveling between their homes to discuss the big book became a regular event. That's how Joe and Charlie got started. They realized how much they loved the big book. Well, Clyde and Cousin Jonathan met in the Zoo Crew in 2023, and we discovered that we also share a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So that's what started the idea for this podcast. Cousin Jonathan and I just absolutely love the big book, and that's why we're here, and we're glad you're here with us to study it with us. So we meet here every Sunday from 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. Eastern in this room. And please have your big book handy so you can read along with us and take notes, and also to underline and highlight as we go along here. So we're in chapter, well, we'll get there. So just FYI, will be recording the audio of these meetings. It's being recorded now, and we share with others on our podcast. And so you can find the link to our podcast online on our webpage. So the purpose of this big book study meeting is to help you when you're meeting with a prospect, which is now called a sponsee, or talking about sobriety in general, because you want to be armed with the facts about yourself in the AA program. Freedom from alcohol comes through taking the 12 steps and working with others. Page 15 of the 12 and 12 says that AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. How soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? We suggest that you purchase a copy of the big book for future use. You'll want to underline, highlight, and write notes. Please order your AA literature directly from AA so that the money goes to Alcoholics Anonymous and to ensure that you get a good copy. We are not advocating rushing through the steps. We do, however, highly suggest that you have a sense of urgency in taking the 12 steps and having them become a way of life sooner than later. Pretend this is a matter of life and death. Well, actually, it is a matter of life and death. So once again, how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? You can go to our website at thezoocrew.org to order your copy of the big book as well as read it online. The big book is our basic text and contains the full recipe for recovery. It is impossible to find a loophole in the big book that excludes you from being a member of AA. Okay, so now we're going to pick up where we left off last week. And before we do that, we're going to do a quick little summary of two really key points about the third step. So we finished at the bottom of page 63. You know, the instructions for taking the third step are from page 60 through 63, and we just studied those. in detail. And so the two chief points that Cousin Jonathan and I want to emphasize about this is it really is simple enough where, remember on page 62 at the bottom of the page, the how and why of it said, first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Okay, so playing God is anytime I'm trying to control an outcome or control how other people are doing things, trying to I'm not minding my own business. Okay, so when I'm trying to manipulate and control and get the desired outcome, that's me playing God. And I have to quit doing that because it doesn't work. And then the next instruction was that we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. So it really is that simple. I just quit playing God and let him be in charge of my life. I'm not qualified to run my life. I'm terrible at it. That's why I need to let God do it. Okay. It really is that simple to turn my will and my life over to God. Quit playing God. That's simple. And it says at the top of page 63, when we sincerely took such a position. So sincerely, again, means I'm not just saying it, I'm actually doing it through action, through my attitude and through my actions. I'm sincerely letting God be my director, doing God's will instead of my own. Instead of looking at everything from the angle of what's in it for me, how's this going to benefit me, getting my hustle on, wanting to manipulate. That's not being sincere. Okay. Sincerely means, hey, I really do want to do the right thing. I want to do God's will instead of my own. So that's the first key thing, is to be sincere about it. And the other one is that after we say the third step prayer, the bottom of this paragraph in the middle of the page, it says that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. It says at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. That means once and for all. That means I've completed this. I don't have to do this over and over and over. If I'm sincere and I abandon myself to God completely, that is what this is all about. Complete and total surrender to my higher power. And it doesn't have to be done again. It can be final right there. Because you'll hear some people say they take their third step every day over and over, constant, over. And other people say, hey, I did it sincerely and I abandoned myself utterly once and for all. I am under God's directorship now. I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God, and that's final. So those are the two key things. It's simple if we're sincere about it, and once we do it, we've done it. It's complete. So at this point, I want to ask, does anybody have any comments or questions or suggestions about this third step here, being sincere and making it final? Step 3.
Well, some people say to say that every morning as a routine in your program, to say the third step prayer every day. Do you suggest that?
Well, you can. There's no right or wrong answer. I guess the point we want to make is that it can be final, or you can do it over and over. But the point is, you can do it once and be complete and not have to do it again, because you've done it once and for all, abandoned yourself utterly. And by the way, just FYI, thank you, Kelly. Regina's going to come in next and share with us. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. We have 90-second shares at this meeting for you to share your experience, strength, and hope. Come on in and share with us, Regina. What are your comments on this third step?
Well, the third step for me, in the beginning, when I first surrendered completely to God, that was my final. Like I went all the way in 100%. throw my arms up and say, I am done with trying to be in control. I am done. I just want you to take control of my life, the situations in it, and lead and guide and direct me. But then as a daily reprieve, I have to remind myself in my own mindset that I am his child, for me, creator God, that I am his child. It does something to my mental state when I consecrate in the beginning and turn my day over to his hands. So I think the daily reprieve is important in that aspect. But yes, total surrender from third step on and through on and on and on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. And here I want to tie this in with some previous, what we read earlier in chapter 4, We Agnostics. This ties in with this third step perfectly. On page 53, this paragraph in the middle of the page says that when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? And that's the point here. When we abandon ourselves utterly to God, we're acknowledging that he is 100% everything. No more of this. And we also read about having one foot on the bridge of reason and one on the desired shore of faith. This is where we step completely on 100% on the shore of faith, the desired shore of faith. We read that in the chapter We Agnostics as well. That's those two paragraphs tie in to this surrender to our higher power. So we're all in, just like Regina said, all in on God because he's everything. That we have a choice. He's everything or nothing. Okay, so are we all clear on all that? That's awesome. So we're gonna, oh, Regina, did you want to share again? If you do,
No,
come.
I was trying to press reaction thumbs up. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Glad we got the thumbs up from Miss Regina. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. Let me get us moving along then. So earlier in this, we're in chapter 5, how it works. And if you look on page 59, step number 4 is listed about in the middle of the page. And it says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So we've completed the first 3 steps. Now we're going to move to step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So what does that mean and how do you do that? Well, we're in luck. Bill's going to tell us all about it now. That's why he wrote the book, the instructions. We're going to read the instructions now. So we're at the bottom of page 63. We've completed our third step, did our complete surrender, abandon ourselves utterly. And it says next, this is step 4. We just did step 3. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Okay, so we're going to do some house cleaning. Let's see what this is all about. It says, though our decision was a vital and crucial step, that was our decision to let God be our director and turn our will and our life over to the care of God. Our decision, step 3, it was vital and crucial, but it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us from God's will, the sunlight of the Spirit. It says our liquor was but a symptom. So we had to get down to causes and conditions. So the alcohol is a symptom. That's not the problem. We're using the alcohol to treat a problem. And it's a solution that works for some of us for quite some time. And then it doesn't work anymore. And then the alcohol does become a problem. But the underlying problem is what we're after here. That's the solution to recovery. Come on in and share with us, Mama Bear.
Thank you, Rocketman, and thank you for everyone that's doing the meeting and make this happen. Um, Step 4 was definitely the time of my deliverance. I had a blockage, all right, and the blockage was writing down my personal affairs. It took over 50, it was 50 years I was not able to do it. In the middle of the 50 years I became that's when I realized I was an alcoholic. And 30 years later, being that I wasn't able to get I couldn't write my personal stuff down. I just couldn't. There was a blockage. However, when I finally got a good sponsor this year, my my God delivered me from that blockage, and I was able to write things down. And that's when I realized that all the defects of my character defects, because I didn't think I had character defects. I even went around asking everyone, "What's my character defects?" I don't know. So it was a journey for sure of searching, but that fourth step was a real deliverance. After that, it was smooth. And thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Okay, thank you, Mama Bear, for sharing with us. We appreciate you. Yeah, and so we're going to face and be rid of these things. Come on in, cousin. What do you think of all this?
Hey, what's up, Clyde? What's up, family? Now, okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. I just want to say that from this point on, from here to page 103, this is not up for negotiation. These are actual instructions. We don't have to interpret them or anything. These are either to be done or not. These are the instructions because after step 3, he says, now we launched out. The words you want to look out for as Clyde is reading is first, next, now, and then. First, next, now, and then. Okay, so from this point to page 103, these are straight instructions. They're really not up for interpretation. They're to be done, and that's that, or not.
Okay. Thank you, cousin. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, we're following directions here is what we're doing. So, okay. Come on in, Regina.
Oh, right. And we're in step 4 where, you start the work of uncovering and discovering and putting that work in. I think it's almost summed up by what Loretta Mama Bear said. After you're finished, it's peace out. Peace just comes and flows through once you get through that breakage. And then it seems like, for me, in my experience, it's as if the break and then things start coming together in life. That's what have happened for me from doing the steps 4. Wow. And it was really difficult. I think it took me about 4 months to finally face that this was something I really needed to be honest about doing and to put all in to do, not hiding anything, just be uncomfortable and vulnerable, whatever it took, just revealing. And it became a revelation of what had happened to me, what I had done to others, and a revealing that I had a better way of life to live and to start making those amends. So thank you. I love that step 4. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. Yeah, so we're going to face and be rid of these things that were blocking us. And it is a peace out. It's amazing. It's miraculous the way these steps open the door for God to restore us to sanity and solve our problem. There's a process, just like Cousin said, first, next, now, then. We're going to follow the steps. We're going to follow this. All the directions are here. We're going to read how to do this. We don't just snap our fingers and abracadabra and peace out. We have to do the work. We get to do the work. We do our part, and God never fails to perform his part for us. If we just follow these simple directions, let's read what they are. First complete paragraph, page 64. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. So we're going to discover some things about ourselves. We're digging up facts and we're going to face them, okay? It says it's an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. We want to know the truth. We're done with this denial and rationalization, justification, brushing stuff under the rug. We're going to get serious about this. We're going to be honest. It says one object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. So that's our object. That's the goal here. We want to see what's going on, what's wrong, what's damaged, what my attitudes and my thinking and my actions, where's the damage and unsaleable stuff happening? Want to get rid of that stuff promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. This ties in with honesty. I have to be honest. I can't kid myself anymore. I'm going to finally face up to these things that I've been hiding from and running from and denying and rationalizing, okay? So here's what we do. He's taking this commercial inventory and applying it as an analogy to our personal lives. So the next paragraph tells us we did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. So first, okay, remember Cuzin said be on the lookout for this? First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. So we're going to look for these flaws. We've got flaws in our makeup that are causing some serious problems for us. And here's what it says about that. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. So what he's talking about here regarding self, remember in step 3, we read on page 62 that selfishness, self-centeredness, that's the root of our trouble and that we must be rid of it. We must, or it kills us. That's because back when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves and we were playing God, we were always in collision. Remember, we read about that on page 60. We're in collision with people. In 61, the show's not working out the way I want it to. You're not doing things the way I want you to. The world isn't cooperating with my plans and designs. And I'm getting upset about it because it's all about me, right? What about me? And so this is what we're talking about here. This self is the biggest problem in my life. Me. All I have to do is look in the mirror. Now we're talking about these manifestations. We're considering its common manifestations. It manifests itself in 3 ways. Number 1 is the first one we're going to inventory about is resentment and anger because people aren't doing things right. You're messing up my life. People, places, and things are my problem, and I'm mad about it. Resentment, that's the number 1 offender. I'm not getting what I want, when I want it, how I want it, and I'm ticked off about it, okay? Everybody's messing up my life because they're not doing it right. Come on in, Mama Bear.
That was right on target for me today. Resentment is the number 1 offender. Yeah, especially around the holidays. You know, it's kind of rough, more so for some people and others. Anyway, so I've been feeling this thing called resentment. I guess what, yeah. And I got up this morning. I was okay, and then it hit me. And my first thought, I said, I'm going to call my sponsor. I said, no, I'm going to write it down. So I did. I do it like a two-way prayer. I talk to my father in writing, and I started out praising him, thanking him, and that cured. Because I thought to myself, resentment is not from God. It's something in my head, and we have and anyway is so I wrote it down, and boy, did that work. That blockage I had for 50 years is clear. I was able to write things down. I was able to write down this morning, and I did my two-way prayer in the writing down, praising my father and thanking him for the goodness that he has given, the blessings that he's given to me. And then I called my sponsor later. So that worked for me very well today. Thank you very much, and peace out.
Thank you, Mama Bear. Next, our dear friend Josh Blair. Come on in, Josh.
Hey, what's up, guys? Josh Blair, alcoholic, and yeah, grateful to be here, celebrating recovery here with you guys today. Yeah, this fourth step is where it's at, man. What a blessing to be able to put this stuff down. And this is the stuff that just wasn't working out for me, causing all of my problems. It was me, my ego manifested. And just as you just shared, I was like a little toddler not getting my way, throw a fucking tantrum and drink and drug. And, that just didn't work out for me, for the Josh Meister anyway. And, but yeah, we get to list out these resentments, quote unquote, these resentments. One was my dad. That was the big one, number one, and the cause was he used to beat us, when we were kids. And I felt that he didn't love me like my brothers. Those were a couple bullet points under the cause. And now, what did that affect? It affected my social sex security instincts, obviously. I had security issues, trust issues. I was living in fear. And I overcompensated with that. I was selfish. I was self-seeking, dishonest, afraid. I used that as an excuse to drive an even bigger wedge in between me and my dad. I tried to intellectualize everything. Yeah, I'll just become a doctor, and then no one will be able to tell me what to do. It was just sick. Oh, there's my timer. I love you guys. Thanks for letting me be here.
Thanks, Josh. We love you too, man. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, resentment is a big, big issue and here's why. So I'm operating on self-will and self-propulsion. I want things the way I want them because I know better than God. And I'm mad because the show isn't turning out just the way I want it to. And when I get mad and I'm walking around angry, guess what? That makes me very uncomfortable. And when I'm uncomfortable, what do I do to relieve that discomfort? I take a drink, a couple of drinks to get some ease and comfort. And then I'm a dead man. So that's why I can't be walking around angry. So we're going to learn just how to deal with this. It's the number one offender. Let's read about it. There's a process here. We do the work. Remember, first, it said we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. So let's read. It says resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. This is life and death here, guys. It says, from it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. Being overly selfish and walking around angry and resentful, that's a soul sickness. That's a spiritual malady. And it says, in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. Now we're going to see this again when we do our fear inventory. That's the second manifestation of being overly selfish and focused on me. Not only am I angry, I'm fearful because I'm going to lose something I have, or I'm not going to get something I think I need, or I'm going to be found out about something. And then the third form is this guilt, shame, and remorse that selfishness shows up in. And we're going to get to that too. But here's the point. Do you hear that? He said, we set them on paper. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. This is the key to the whole process. It says we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. And now, for the first time in our life, instead of just walking around steaming mad and resentful with these thoughts going through our heads all the time, we're actually putting it down on paper where we can look at it, analyze it, discuss it with another person. This is the fact finding and fact facing process right here, putting it down on paper. So you're going to see that again in the fear inventory, and you're going to see it again in the harmful conduct inventory. Here it is the first time in the resentment inventory. Put it on paper. So we're going to list people, places, and things that we're mad at. And you're going to ask yourself, so why we were angry? It's a question. We're going to ask ourselves, why? Why am I angry? And in most cases, and here's the answer. So Bill's given us a question, and here's the answer. Question, why am I mad? Answer, in most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, that's how I feel about myself, my sense of self-worth, our pocketbooks, my bank account, my money, okay, our ambitions, my goals and dreams in life, our personal relationships, including sex. So my ability to have healthy, happy relationships with other people are affected. We're hurt or threatened. That's why I'm mad. When these basic instincts of mine are being threatened. It says, so we were sore. We were burned up. So that's what's making me mad, by me being overly selfish, focused on myself. These are the things that are being affected in me. These instincts, these basic instincts, social and my social instincts, my security instincts, my sex instincts, they're being threatened. And that's making me upset. So we'll continue. Does anybody, do you guys see how these things play out in your life? Do you have any experience with being upset because of these instincts being threatened? This is what we write about. And when we take our inventory, we're going to learn just how simple it is to do an inventory too. Bill's going to lay it out for us. Real simple. We're getting there. Okay, so at this point, we're just learning why. So it's not the person that I'm mad at. It's not that person. You could interchange another person, another name, and I'd still be mad. So it's not that person that I have the resentment against. And it's not even so much the action that they took, the behavior that they did that I'm mad at. It's the way it affected my instincts. That's why I'm upset. That's why I'm mad. My instincts are being threatened. And we're going to figure out which ones. We're going to list it. So next page 65, top of the page. On our grudge list, this is my resentment list, we set opposite each name our injuries. It says, was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations, which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example. So now we're going to learn how to take inventory and how to write this stuff down. We're not writing a novel here. There's a format that we use that Bill has. He says, here it is, definite example. So we were usually as definite as this example. So he's showing us exactly how to do it. So the first column, we're going to make a list of people we're mad at. I'm resentful at. So Bill listed 4 people here: Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, his boss, and his wife Lois. And this is how you fill this out, by the way. We do it one column at a time. And there's actually 4 or 5 columns. This is just the first 3 that we're doing at this point. Okay, you'll see where columns 4 and 5 come into play on page 67. We'll get there. But at this point, you just have 3 columns that you fill in. So you make a list if you're actually taking your 4-step inventory. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to, you know what? Why don't we just go ahead and do this? Let's walk through the process and do some inventory work here. So get yourself a blank piece of paper. And we don't have to go back to kindergarten and write down every little thing where Johnny called you a booger face and you're still mad about it and all that silly stuff. Just focus on, let's keep it current and keep it real. You know, things that you resent and you're angry about now, like that you think about on a regular basis, that are causing some you to replay some harmful negative thing in your head over and over, or some regular event that happens, you know, throughout your week that you get mad about. Let's focus on that. I want you to get a blank piece of paper and make 5 columns. I know there's only 3 here, but we're going to do 2 more when we get over to page 67. Okay. So let's do our first 3 columns. Make a list, and this should take you about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to put in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people, places, or things that you're mad at. It's just a name. We're not writing a novel here. It's just bullet points, discussion points. So just put down their name: Jim, Bob, Billy, the IRS, and the United States government, or the police, or whatever it is that ticks you off. So go ahead and do that. I want you to have 5 columns, and we're going to have, well, up to 5 rows of people you get mad at. Yeah, so Cousin, are you there? I think, yeah, I think we lost Cousin. Okay. So I'm wondering if we should do the inventory work or just read the instructions on the inventory work. So I think we'll just go ahead and continue with the study portion and not do the actual inventory. I'm gonna make an executive decision and we'll go with that, down that route. We're just gonna continue with the study. And then yeah, maybe next week we'll take it up and see if we want to do the actual inventory work. So we're just studying the directions right now. So let's do that. Okay. So you would make, in your first column, you can see what Bill's resentful at, and he listed those 4 people. The second column, he put the cause, why. So he's upset with Mr. Brown because he's flirting with Lois. He told Lois about his mistress. And this guy, Mr. Brown, might get Bill's job because he's probably showing up on time and doing good work and staying late and very responsible and productive. And, you know, Bill's an alcoholic out of control. So these are the things that Bill's upset about. This is what's causing him to have these resentments against these people. And then in his third column, he lists what is affected, which of his instincts are affected by what these people have done. So we'll just continue then with the process the way it's laid out in the book. So at this point, when we're taking the 4th step, we have 3 columns filled in with the things that are making us mad. And by the way, a resentment, the root word for that, means again, and zent is feel. So when somebody does something harmful to me and I get upset about it, let's say somebody lies to me or punches me in the face or cheats me or has an affair or whatever it is, When the initial event of what they did is perfectly normal and healthy for me to get upset about that. But where resentment is a problem is after that, every time I replay the event, re-feel over and over and over, that's on me. Now I'm hitting myself in the head with a hammer. That's where the problem comes in. That's not the other person anymore. That's me. And that's what we're trying to get rid of. We've got to quit doing that. And as a result of following this process, following these directions and doing what we're told here and suggested, that's how we get rid of the resentment. It'll be cast aside. It'll go away. Okay, so does anybody have any comments or questions about how to take an inventory so far? What we're up to here? We got 3 columns. Okay, let's continue with the process. We're just doing the work the way it's outlined in the book. Bottom of the page 65. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. There's that word again, honesty and thorough. We want to be complete. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. So we're going to take a good hard look at this. You know, what's going on here? And we're going to realize, it says, the first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. So these people did do things that were harmful to me, and that's apparent, and it's true. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. That's a problem, okay? So this has been my MO for all these years, just walking around being mad at everybody, and it's everybody else's fault. Nothing's my fault, of course. It's you. You guys are messing me up. So I've concluded that everyone else is wrong, and that's it. The end of it. Here's the usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. So nothing's changing. It's just over and over. It's like Groundhog Day, every day, same thing. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. So sometimes I feel guilty. Now I have a resentment against myself, and I feel bad. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. It says, as in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. So this is a dead-end street that's not going anywhere. If nothing changes, nothing changes. I just stay mad all the time. This is unhealthy, not good. And here's what happens. If we keep reading, it says, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. So I'm wasting my time. I'm unhappy and I'm wasting my time if I'm just walking around mad all the time. It says, to the precise extent that we permit these, it's a choice, I'm permitting it to happen, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? So I'm wasting time, completely wasting my time walking around mad. I mean, imagine that. There's 24 hours in a day. You spend 8 hours sleeping. You got 16 hours a day. You're walking around mad when you could have been happy and enjoying life. What a waste. It says you're squandering hours. And that's for a normal person. Listen to this. But with the alcoholic, that's us, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal. So this is life and death for me to be rid of these resentments. The reason he's telling us this is so that we really pay attention. It's like, I cannot be walking around angry. My life depends on it. Infinitely, he calls it a business of resentment. And it's infinitely grave. I'm digging my grave if I'm walking around mad. I need to pay attention. When I feel anger pop up, I am like on high alert. That means watch out, that my life is on the line right now. It says, For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. Kind of hard to receive and do God's will when I'm mad and resentful and I'm blocking Him off. That is a serious problem. My life depends on it. And here's why: the insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. So Bill just told me if I want to block God out of my life and really put my life on the line and a high risk, all you got to do is walk around mad and walking around with the resentments. So I do not want to do that. High priority. Okay. Now, so that's scary. He's framing things up for us, telling us just how significant, just how important this is that we be rid of these. And here, he's going to tell us how. That's the beauty of this program, the beauty of these instructions. Listen to this. After Mama Bear comes in and shares with us. Come on in, Mama Bear. Mama Bear? You may have froze up. Yeah, you're not moving. You can come back. You can come back in a little bit. We're going to keep reading here. Okay. So here's how we do it. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. So this is big. Have to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. So I cannot be Mr. Grouch, Mr. Brainstorm, angry man walking around. That is going to kill me. It's poison. Okay. You want to try again, Mama Bear? You can try to unmute and come in. Okay. Josh, you want to give it a shot? Come on in, Josh.
Hey, what's up, guys? Josh Blair again here, alcoholic, and yeah, grateful for this bit in the book. You know, how powerful to know. I was just doing that inventory, and I realized that I do have some resentments against the world, and it's a war in certain areas, and there's certain political things that piss me off when I look at the news, but then I remember I'm an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like, if I get stuck in that negativity, that's life or death. And thanks for reminding me about that. So what I need to focus on is my spiritual growth. World peace through self peace. I can't change the world, but I can change my attitude. I can change what I do, and that's it. I love the serenity prayer for that. It's just that constant reminder that God is where it's at, and what I need to be focusing on is that relationship throughout the day. And if I do that, everything else is going to be all good. If I take the reins again, that's when I start getting in trouble. That's where those resentments, fears, anger, all that sort of nasty stuff comes in. It blocks me off from that sunlight of the Spirit. So thanks for that reminder. I love you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. We love you too. All right. Zen Jen asking you to unmute. Come on in.
Thank you, Clyde. Thanks, everyone. Jen, grateful recovering alcoholic. So, if we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be a luxury, a dubious luxury for normal men, but we are not normal. Alcoholics cannot live like that because it tells us in the paragraph before we can't do it because it'll block us off from God and we'll drink. Because I used to be like, well, how come they're behaving and they're being the asshole and yeah, doesn't matter. I'm the alcoholic who needs to have spiritual growth. That's where my defense from the first drink comes. It's coming from that higher power. And you know, the poison is being resentful. I just can't allow it. So I'm going to avoid toxic people. This number one, have good boundaries, but also I set my life up to be a more effective human being. I don't go to stores at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody's trying to get groceries for dinner. I go like first thing in the morning, or I don't go. I have to go in. I see like nobody, So I set my whole day up so I can have a better time. Yeah. So that's it.
Great. Thanks for sharing with us, John. We're glad you're here. Thank you. Hey, Tony, come on in.
Thank you, Clyde. Oh my God, I love it. Hey, my name is Tony R. and I'm an alcoholic. I work with 120 other people. And I'm talking about just in my department. Just in my department, there's 120. I work at a hotel. And I work for other departments sometimes. There's this lady, she's the sweetest lady in the world, but she micromanages. And I'm listening to this, I'm listening to your the program and what you're saying, and me, my sobriety date is April 8th, 2020. I'll have 5 years in April, and I am learning how to manage my life and live with not drinking, and I'm getting to know myself. And I went in there one day and I said, you know what, whatever she says, because I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want to be in the middle of this stirring up this conflict. So I told myself, whatever she tells me, I'm just gonna say yes, I'm just gonna do it. And it's because I know it's me. And deep down inside, I know it's me. And she did that. She told me something, and it was just like one time, and the rest of the day went by perfect. And it worked out. And then, but this is what I need to work on is when she's not around, I'm sitting there stirring it up like, oh man, doesn't she act like this? Doesn't she micromanage? And I'm starting to get people on my side. But I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm just asking for another conflict. But this is great, man. I listening to everybody else's shares and just the alcoholic mind, man. Even when the alcohol's not around, we're it's something else. Thank you, Clyde. Bye, guys.
Great. Thanks, Tony, for sharing with us. I'm glad you're having some breakthroughs here. That's growth. That's called spiritual growth. That's called learning and understanding these principles better. That's why we're here studying the big book together, so that we can grow and learn, grow spiritually. So thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. Going to ask you again, Mama Bear, can you unmute now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to shut my camera off and get off and get back on again. Everyone froze up on me. So anyway, my camera's off. Thankful to be here. How I keep myself checked is like this morning with the resentment thing. Um, I I I do my best. You pay forward. I pray forward. I pray for tomorrow. So my result for that to practicing that is like today I realized the resentment that was starting to tickle my brain, and I came to my senses and realized it's not from God. So I did the writing, and that's how I keep myself um, fit spiritually, because yeah, I don't want to go back in that path, man. I'm sober and I want to keep it. Thank you very much for letting me share. Mama Bear, still an alcoholic. Peace out. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mama Bear. Yeah, and so what you'll notice is we're making progress as we just follow these simple, clear-cut directions, and we're writing this stuff down and thinking about it. Light bulbs are starting to go off, and there's going to be a lot more light bulbs going off because there's more instructions and more process that we're about to engage in. It really is miraculous the way this program works. So we're going to continue following the directions now. And we must be rid of this. It says if we were to live, we had to be free of anger. Okay, so he's going to tell us how to do it. This is the miracle. It says we turned back to the list, for it held the key to the future. So that list, with just those first 3 columns in it, is the key to my future. This is important stuff, guys. And it says, we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. So now these resentments, we're looking at them with a new pair of glasses. And instead of looking at what that person did to me and why I hate that person so much, I'm going to look at what the resentment is doing to me. Why am I replaying this and reliving this over and over and over, engaged in this futile and unhappy life because I'm choosing to keep bringing this up over and over in my head? That dirty SOB. I can't believe he did that. If so-and-so did that to you, you'd drink too. A lot of us, it gives us an excuse to just keep drinking because we have no choice. This person did such and such. So we're going to start looking at this from a different angle now. And so it continues. It says, we began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. So this is wrecking my life. This person, what they did to me, is dominating me. I am drinking incessantly over this thing that happened who knows how long ago, and really isn't all that important anyway, but I just keep rehashing it in my head over and over and over. It says, in that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill. Again, my life's on the line. These resentments are serious. This anger, serious, life and death. It says, how could we escape? That's a question. We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? Another question. We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. So those are the questions. How can I escape these resentments and anger? How can I master them? And here's the answer. This was our course. Gotta love this book. Could it be any easier? The instructions are right here for us, so I don't have to figure anything out. It's already been figured out. I just have to follow the rules, follow the suggestions, and here it is. There's my course. It says, we realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. What that means is the person that engaged in harmful conduct against me hurt me because they are hurt. They have issues. They have problems. Life has gotten lifey for them, and they're acting out against me. It's nothing personal. They're just acting out, and they need to have I need to extend cut them some slack, some patience, tolerance, a little kindness and love, and realize that, hey, and they don't have a program. I do. I've got a program. So I need to cut people some slack. And because the only reason they're doing these things that are harmful to me is because they've been harmed. Okay. So it says, we realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. It says, though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. So it's like, hey, we all have issues. Life gets lifey for everybody. Let's just cut each other some slack. It says, we asked God. So this is more of the answer here. Asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. So if your friend ended up getting sick, you wouldn't be mad at them. You'd have some tolerance and pity and patience for them. Well, these people are spiritually sick, okay? Just like we are. So let's stop being so harsh and critical of each other and just realize we all need a little bit of grace and mercy. I need some from people I've harmed, and I need to extend it to people that have harmed me. That's the story here. That's the message. Come in, Mama Bear.
Thank you, Clyde. That is so true. I'm learning. Um, the so-called. I didn't know that there were resentments. I just know it happened, and there was a lot of repercussions of it. And anyway, but that right there is, I'm understanding more. I mean, they weren't alcoholics; they were just sick people. You don't have to be an alcoholic to be a sick person, and actually those people that aren't alcoholics, I sometimes think they're worse than recovering alcoholics, because alcoholics come to the realization that they're sick and they need help and this is a disease. Where sober people, they can't, sometimes they can't see past their nose. So but with that right there is that for me to come to the realization that, you know, we're surrounded. I had a boyfriend. I used to say we're surrounded by idiots, but I like to say we're surrounded by sick people. And anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit and how much of that phrase and I love the big book. I mean, it really touches everyone. Um, it doesn't matter. You can believe the crumb on your plate is your God. It doesn't matter. But if you follow these simple instructions, that will keep you sober. But it's a way of life that I think it should be in the school system. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Okay, thank you, Mama Bear. Hi, Lindsay. What would you like to share?
Sorry, one second. Good afternoon, Lindsay, grateful recovering alcoholic. I just have something like I'm kind of confused about the concept. Okay, so if you say the sick man's prayer and give them the same tolerance that you would a sick friend, and okay, say if you had to be in the person's like environment consistently still, what would you do after that? Like, would you just return to like if I were to remain calm, you know what I mean, and not reactive, and then do I just remain in prayer at that point? So I'm just wondering like where that line is. Do you understand? Oh, maybe you understand what I'm saying, maybe not. But the sick man prayers I definitely agree with, and I'm just wondering what does the person do after that with that resentment? Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, to avoid crosstalk, this isn't a crosstalk meeting, it's a big book study. And I'm not 100% clear on what the question is, Lindsay. So I guess, are you saying, what if I say the sick man's prayer for the person and then they continue to engage in the same harmful conduct? Do I keep saying the sick man's prayer over and over? Is that what you're asking? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I would say no. If you've got a toxic person in your life, you want to disengage. You work that out with your higher power and your sponsor. We always go to God first, our higher power, and get solutions from him or it, whatever your higher power is, and then discuss it with other people if we need to, our sponsor and other alcoholics. And the best course of action, it sounds like, would be to disengage from that person and discontinue being involved in someone that keeps harming you over and over. There's no reason to have somebody like that in your life. And if it is a boss at work, for example, maybe it's time to get a different job, resign and work somewhere else. So no, this is not telling us to just let people keep harming us and keep praying over and over. No, that's not what this is. This is to get rid of a resentment for a harmful event. Okay, thank you. All right, come on in, Zen Jen.
I'm Jen, grateful recovering alcoholic. Yeah, no, I was just kind of on, you kind of wrap that up with what Lindsay had said about that with the sick man's prayer, is that what I would want to pray for if someone is aligned with their source, with their God, with their higher power. They would not do those things, like those awful things. So, yeah, I pray that they find alignment, because I had many people that did very traumatic things to me, not good, but you know what? I had to pray and say, please guide them, and it was and that's what helped me, instead of just saying they're sick. Like I imagine that they get spiritually aligned and make right in the world. That's how I look at it. That's how I choose to look at it. And that's how I've moved through my stuff, as far as like with the angry man prayer, because we can get really, really angry and someone's still exerting the displaying the same behaviors. So, um, that's it. That's all I got. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you, Jen. for sharing with us. We're glad you're here. Regina, hello. Oops, come on in. Sorry, I think
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm Regina. You know, it's interesting that that question about the sick man's prayer. I had this week, just a couple days ago, I don't know, I would say that it was God because he speaks to me. I'm blessed. But one morning I woke up, I consecrate my day to God, and I heard it said to me, you know, everyone everyone is not sent of God. And then that everyone has the ability to choose God or not to choose God. And that with that being said, there are some people that choose not God. Just like I have the opportunity, maybe later in my life, to commit completely to God, others may have decided to retain the sickness rather than to choose God. And I believe that that prayer is for them. That's all I got.
Thank you, Regina, for sharing with us. We're glad you're here. Okay, so what we heard was you referred to the sick man's prayer. This is the fourth step prayer. There's actually several. This is the resentment sick man's prayer. On the next page, we're going to learn about the remove fear prayer. And then in the harmful conduct portion, there's like 2 or 3 places where we pray. So you're going to see a big pattern here through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous that involve prayer. It's the most important, most powerful spiritual tool in our spiritual toolkit. And here's what the sick man's prayer. It's 4 sentences. And this is how we deal with resentments. It says, when a person offended, we said to ourselves, here it is. This is a sick man. That's the first sentence. Next, how can I be helpful to him? This person is sick and needs help. Third sentence, God, save me from being angry. So I'm going to pause and say, hey, God, please remove this anger from me. I don't want to be mad. I can't be mad. My life depends on it. And then the fourth sentence is, thy will be done. It's like, okay, God, what do you want me to do here? How should I proceed in this situation with this person? This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done. Now, if we had actually done the inventory work, and when you're working with people, they should be able to look at their list. Remember, it holds the key to the future. It says we looked at the list again, for it holds the key to the future. We turn back to the list. So you're going to ask the people you're working with, your sponsees, to look at the list right now. Are there some people in that first column in your resentments that you can say this prayer about and let the resentment go? Your life depends on it. And a lot of times, a lot of those resentments just go away right then and there. Now, there's more to the process and more relief coming. This is just the initial wave, okay? That's why I say this is building, it's progressive. There's aha moments that are happening. It's the beauty of the program. Just follow the instructions and trust the process. God does the rest. We do the work and God handles the outcome. The outcome is usually pretty darn good if we follow directions thoroughly and honestly. Speaking of which, let's continue with the directions. It says that we avoid retaliation or argument. You hear that? We're not retaliating. We're not arguing anymore with people. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So we all know what kind means. We can be kind, Tolerant. That doesn't mean that somebody can punch me in the face and I can tolerate that and let them keep punching me in the face. What tolerance means is that I'm willing to respect the fact that other people think different than I do. They behave different. They have different opinions. And I am not God. I'm not in charge. I'm not the ultimate answer to every question. And I don't know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for me, et cetera, et cetera. Tolerance is just live and let live. Okay. So that's what we're asking God to help me just be kind and appreciate and respect the fact that this person sees things differently than I do. There's no right or wrong. That's what's right for that person. It may be inconsistent with what's right for me, but I just want to be tolerant and realize other people have different views, and that's okay. So we'll read this one more paragraph. This is the last paragraph regarding the resentment inventory here. These are the final directions. By the way, if that sick man's prayer didn't eliminate all the people from your resentment list, then the heavy duty jackhammer, prayer jackhammer, is found in the back of the big book, page 552 in the story Freedom from Bondage. It actually starts on page 551. And it's a story about this woman who had this 25 or 33-year resentment against her mother, just could not get rid of it. So she does the sick man's prayer, gets rid of all her resentments. Let's say there's 10 on her list. 9 of them are gone. This one with her mother is so baked in over so many decades, it just won't budge from the sick man's prayer. So what she did was she prayed for her mother, her health, her happiness, every good thing. She just prayed and prayed and prayed for the well-being and goodwill toward her mother. Said, please. And remember, she's like really, really upset with this person. Said, please. In fact, I'm going to read it to you. It's that significant. So it's page 552. And here's what it says about her prayer for this guy, for her mother to get rid of this resentment. If the sick man's prayer doesn't do it, this should, and it will actually. It says, if you have a resentment you want to be rid of, want to be free of, it says, if you will pray for the person or the thing that you resent, you will be free. Prayer, okay? It says, if you will ask in prayer for everything you want for yourself to be given to them, you will be free. Ask for their health, their prosperity, their happiness, and you will be free. Even when you don't really want it for them and your prayers are only words and you don't mean it, go ahead and do it anyway. Do it every day for 2 weeks, and you will find you have come to mean it and to want it for them. And you will realize that where you used to feel bitterness and resentment and hatred, you now feel compassionate, understanding, and love. It worked for me then, and it has worked for me many times since. And it will work for me every time I am willing to work at it. Sometimes I have to ask first for the willingness, but it too always comes. And because it works for me, it will work for all of us. So it says, as another great man says, the only real freedom a human being can ever know is doing what you ought to do because you want to do it. So that's the instructions. We have that chip in our chip celebration about drop the rock, page 552. This is what they're talking about. And if you try it for 2 weeks and the resentment's still there, do it another 2 weeks. Keep doing it. I've used this technique about 3 times and it worked every time. Within a matter of days, by the way. I didn't even have to do it for 2 weeks. This is a powerful technique. You know, you've seen this thing where it says pro tip. This is the pro tip here. If you've got a deep-seated, heavily baked in resentment, this will work. It works. Go ahead and come in, Mama Bear.
Hi, this is another reason why I love the studying of the big book when we study. I mean, just not a bunch of alcoholics getting together and talking about their problems. I'm talking about going through the big book because, I know some Christians that do their best to do the right thing and things are just not happening and they don't know why. And, but if they follow the instructions here, um, there it is. I mean, problem solved. And this is why I love about this program is that, it doesn't matter what you believe in. If you believe in a power greater than yourself, the big book is an excellent guideline for life. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out. I love you guys. Toodaloo.
Okay, thank you, Mama Bear. Yeah, we love you too. So there's more to the fourth step, and we're going to get to it. This is where column 4 and column 5 come into play. And this is where more relief and more understanding of what's wrong with us and how to let God remove it from us comes from. This next paragraph is huge. It's the last one on the 4-step resentment inventory. Okay. It says, referring to our list again. So we're looking at the list. Putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done. So we are ignoring what they did to us at this point. Not even an issue. We don't even consider what they did. We resolutely looked for our own mistakes. So now I got the microscope and the magnifying glass on myself. I'm looking in the mirror now. I'm ignoring the other person and I'm looking at my part in this situation because I'm contributing in some fashion to this issue. And now I'm going to look for it. And here it says, where had we been? Selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. Did my selfishness, dishonesty, self-seeking, or fear have anything to do with this situation? More than likely. And if it didn't have anything to do with the initial situation, it sure does now, and probably in both, before and after. It says, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Again, we're ignoring what they did. Where were we to blame? This is the 4th column. Remember on page 65, we made our list with 3 columns. Now we add a 4th column and we're putting in, what's my part in this? It says, where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. Again, we're writing this stuff down. And this is our 4th column. What is my part? It says we admitted our wrongs honestly. So I'm going to be honest with myself and say, yeah, the reason they did such and such is because I did such and such to kind of set this in motion. And then it says, we're willing to set matters straight. So we admitted our wrongs honestly, wrote them down in that 4th column. And then in the 5th column, I'm going to list what I'm willing to do to set matters straight. So if I was dishonest with that person, I'm willing to be honest from now on. This is the living amends, column 5 in our resentment inventory is our living amends column. So if I lied, I'm going to start telling the truth. If I was impatient, I'm going to be patient from now on. If I was selfish, I'm going to be helpful to others and not focused on myself so much. If I was fearful, I'm going to have some faith and trust God. I'm going to seek my higher power to do the right thing and leave the outcome to Him and have some faith and trust in my higher power. And so on and so forth. Like, if I was greedy, I'm going to be more interested in doing the right thing and not taking advantage of people. Living amends in column 5. Come on in, Regina.
When you pick it up here in step 4, when you pick it up here and you're bringing it out like that, it puts me in the mind of St. Francis prayer, because it kind of like now begins to show the principles that I now long to live by. Maybe I wasn't aware that I was being dishonest or lying when I was lying or being manipulative. So now that I recognize those things, I can ask God to remove those characteristics and give me the other, to be honest. Or when I was impatient, let me switch from that and try to be more patient. So it begins on step 4. It begins to help me to see where I was at fault in my defects of character, and help me to know what should I have done or what could I do differently moving forward in this new life on as I trudge just this road of happy destiny. And when you were speaking, it just brought the St. Francis prayer and the significance of it, especially that it is a prayer and that the book was designed for us to find a power greater than ourselves, a power that could help us to live a life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. Thank you for sharing with us. Yeah, the 4th column is what either I did wrong or I'm still doing wrong. And that 5th column are the assets we strive for with God's help. Either what we should have done in the first place or what we're going to do now to set matters right, which is in alignment with God's will. And that's what we're striving for. So yeah, that's a great place to break, and we'll do a recap next week. So that's the resentment portion of the inventory process in step 4. So we covered a lot of ground today, picked up some key information. It's a great process, and it builds and builds and builds momentum, because we're going to do more inventory work, you'll see, on our fear and anxiety, and we're going to do more on harmful conduct to cover our guilt, shame, and remorse. Then we're going to move into step 5, which is where we're going to share all of this inventory that we're taking with our sponsor and or priest, if you're a member of a organized religion. And we're going to get even more relief once we discuss all these things that we've written down. So we're early on in the process, but we've completed the resentment and anger inventory. We see just how important it is to be rid of them. We list them all out, and we're just following the directions here. And we've already begun to get some relief from these resentments by the sick man's prayer and the freedom from bondage in the back of the big book if we need to. And otherwise, we're just doing the work, and we're going to continue with the process and let God do his thing and handle the outcome for us. So thank you, everyone, for coming to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book study. We meet every Sunday from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern in this room. This podcast will be available by this Friday. You can join us on Telegram for updates. So here's what it says on Big Book page 164. It says, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. So I'm going to ask everyone to unmute. Come on in. We're going to end this study with the Lord's Prayer. We'll recite that together. And thank you, Lindsay, for being our timer. And thank you, everyone, for coming in and sharing. It's been a great study. I really appreciate you guys. So come on in, and we're going to say the Lord's Prayer. So who brought us together for this big book study this afternoon?
Our
Our
Father,
Father,
who
who
art
art
in
in
who
heaven,
art
heaven,
in heaven,
hallowed be thy
hallowed
hallowed
be
name.
be
thy
thy
name.
name.
Thy
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 kingdom
kingdom
come,
kingdom
come,
come,
thy will be
thy
thy
done
will
will
be
be
on
done
done
earth as it is
on
in
on
earth
heaven.
as
earth
it is
as
in
it is
Give
heaven.
in
us this
heaven.
day our
Give us
daily
Give
this
us
bread,
this
day
day
and
our
forgive us
daily
our
daily
bread.
bread,
trespasses,
Give
and
us
as
our
we
forgive us our
forgive
trespasses,
those who
trespasses,
trespass
as we
as
against us.
forgive
we
those who
forgive
And
those
lead
who
us
trespass
not
against
into
us.
trespass
temptation,
Lead
but
us
those
not
deliver us
into
from evil.
temptation, but
For thine
deliver
is
us
the
from
for
evil.
us
kingdom, the
from
For
evil.
thine
power,
is the
and the
kingdom,
glory
power,
forever and
and the
ever.
glory
And the glory
forever.
Amen.
forever and
Amen.
ever.
Thank
Amen.
you. Thank you,
Amen.
Clyde.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Y'all
you.
have a happy Sunday.
You
Uh,
too, Mama Bear,
Will
Loretta.
do.
I look forward to seeing you guys next Sunday, I hope.
Yeah.
yes,
Yep, we
yes. Hi,
will.
Regina. It's
And
Jen.
who? Hey, Zinjan. Hey.
Hey, Zinja.
I was gonna go on. Yeah, I was
There you
actually
are.
did the workshop 4 hours, so I was like, "Oh, I'm late to my."
Wow.
How was it, Jen? How'd you guys do in there?
It was great. I loved it.
Awesome.
Loved
Yes.
it. It was really good. Yeah.
Good.
Tracy, how you doing?
Hmm.
Tracy. Hey,
Hi.
we signing off. I just want to say have a good week. I hope to see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Hope to see you too, Regina.
All right, guys. Love you.
Yeah.
Love
I was
you.
just
We
gonna
love
tell
you.
you, Clyde, love you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna tell you, it went. I was so worried, and Alyssa was like, "You got." I'm like, "Wait a minute. How about I just trust God by
Oh, I'm
doing
sure you
this out
did
there?"
great, Jen. Yeah, I'll bet it went better than you thought it was
Oh,
going to go, didn't it?
and this one lady that was in there sent me a really beautiful thing. I said, I got a confession to make. I've never done it before. They're like, you explained it so well. And blah, blah, blah. So I know that was God working through me.
Definitely. That's how this works. That's our higher
And
power at work, Jen.
she's like, I could just see, like, I was like, whoa, yes, yes, I'm gonna do this.
But
And I was
Yes.
like,
I
great,
won't,
that's
I,
terrific. I'm just really happy for everybody. It was good. Got a lot out of it. I enjoyed it. It's never gets old, the book stuff. So I was like, great. It was really good.
I just wonder how that prayer came into my mind just as Regina was like putting up her hand to share it. I was like, that is insane. That stuff keeps
I was
happening.
literally thinking the same thing too, because you know, when you do the character defects and their opposites, you know, that's kind of the St. Francis-y. I'm like, you're getting a little St. Francis here. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is very
it
much
is.
so. You're absolutely right. That is St.
Absolutely,
Francis.
because you're right. And so when you see those glaring defects, you know,
We do the opposite. Yeah, the
yeah,
St.
you do
Francis
the
opposite.
opposite. And that
Yeah.
and the St. Francis prayer, basically, that's what we're asking when we're praying that prayer.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yep.
Exactly.
All right, you all.
Thank you so much,
Love
Yeah.
everybody.
you all.
Thank you, everybody.